we can't be healed without confession. I have to come to the physician and say, something's not right.
Yep.
And me saying something is not right opens up the door for diagnosis and treatment, right? So we can't be healed. Well, hello, everybody. Come on, let's give the Lord praise. Amen. Wonderful, wonderful. Listen, we want to welcome you to Spirit and Mind, where we discuss current affairs with faith and mental health perspectives. I am so excited to be back, and I know I speak on behalf of my colleague, Dr. Jonathan Shepard, as well. Let's greet Dr. Shepard. Hello, Dr. Shepard.
Good evening, Bishop.
We certainly want to thank God for our online audience and all those that are streaming as well. And so normally we begin with telling people how they can get connected and all those kind of things. So let somebody know and share. And Dr. Shepard, you want to take us from there?
Absolutely. And hello, everyone. It is so good to be seen again. And heard again, and it's good to be back in one of my home churches, as I would say, because I feel at home when I come here. And so I'm glad to be a part of once again Spirit and Mind. And thank you, Bishop, for allowing us to come to this venue, to your church, to Tabernacle of the Lord Church, your church, wonderful church. And I'm so glad that you all are part. This particular ministry, as you know, was the brainchild of your pastor just about 5 years ago, Bishop. We launched, I just thought about that, March of 2020.
That's right.
We first went on, and Bishop Robinson approached me to be a part, and so we're so glad that 5 years in the making, and we're in the process of expanding our platform. So we're glad that you all are here to be a part of this expansion. Today, we're going to have a QR code, and we're going to have other ways in which you can go and sign up to be a part of our Spirit and Mind YouTube channel. You can also email us, Bishop, for those who know Bishop, know the CGR Ministries. You can go and look him up, and you can email Bishop there. You can email myself, jshep2471@gmail.com, or go to my website, drjonathanshepard.com, and right there I talk about how you can connect with direct care services, providing direct care services in Maryland and in DC area. Bishop does direct care services too. We just do a different type of direct care services. He does pastoral care. I'm doing the care where if you are in need of mental health services, please look me up, drjonathanshepard.com. And I think those are the ways right now, Bishop, and we'll probably share some more as we go throughout the night.
Absolutely, absolutely. So make sure you do that. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you get the QR code and become a part of the Spirit and Mind community specifically for that, because that's where we'll be sharing a lot of content relative to this stuff that we discuss here. And we're excited about our podcast and all of that.
Yes,
so we'll be putting this information back up as we progress. But for now, we want to talk a little bit about our content for today. And so, listen, I'll begin this way. And if you have any persons who are dealing with some of the stresses of this age, please share this broadcast, share this post on your social media page. Text somebody, tell them you need to get on this, because we believe that this is an important subject. So we want to talk a little bit about this age that we're in right now, and from multiple perspectives: spiritually, psychologically, psycho-spiritually, sociologically. Just want to discuss what's going on. And I'll begin this way. Back in just at the end of World War II, the poet and writer William Auden, Auden, won a Pulitzer Prize for an elongated narrative poem that he wrote called The Age of Anxiety. You can look it up, The Age of Anxiety. What he was suggesting was that he was influenced by all the events in the aftermath of World War II, looking at how Europe was ravaged and looking at even in America, people who had lost relatives and friends in that war and the grieving processes that were happening. And as a result, the post-traumatic stress of that age. And so he called it The Age of Anxiety. And it became a bestseller simply from its title. Wow. Because everybody, in fact, research shows that there's more people who bought the book than actually read it. But just The Age of Anxiety resonated with a generation because they were wondering, all of a sudden, life shifted for them. And they were living and trying to rebuild their lives after this tragic event, a world war. And it raised these questions, can this happen again? And what is going on? And it seemed like other stuff was happening. If that was the age of anxiety, I want to suggest this might be the sequel.
Yeah.
We're not at the end of World War II, but right after the end of COVID, and right after a pandemic just shook our world and perhaps still caused us to realize that life can change just like that. And now we are living in so many arenas of instability and uncertainty in terms of course, the administration that we're in now is doing things to change government. Government workers are experiencing elevated anxiety. There are reports out that indicate that. Uncertainty about jobs that used to be considered, once you got that. My dad was a government employee, and he used to talk about, I got a good government job for life, they don't lay off. Well, he's up in glory now saying, what has happened?
Right.
And government workers are feeling uncertain, and other institutions are being shut down, and even internationally now, world leaders are wondering what's going on, and what does this America First policy mean in terms of us as NATO and the European Union and allies and tariffs. And now we're in a tariff situation with our neighbors to the north and to the south, that are Mexico and Canada. Is it the Gulf being renamed? And so there's a whole lot of changes happening and a whole lot of uncertainty. And that's on an international level. Is there anybody that can watch? Maybe you're watching and you can relate to that. Like even in my own life, there's ripple effects and things are changing. And that's why we want to talk a little bit about that. So Dr. Shepard, what's going on? What we talking about? Solve all our problems. Take us further.
I wish I could solve all of our problems. Audience and those who are watching online today, and those who will listen back to this podcast, I want people to know what Bishop Robinson just said was really profound regarding living in the age of anxiety. We have never really fully recovered from the 2020, 2021, and ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. And what's scary is that we may have another pandemic looming. And measles are breaking out. I mean, things that we did not think would actually come back because we thought that they were eradicated, and they were. Now that people are allowing themselves to be misinformed, allowing these different lies and myths to capture their attention and hold on to them, we're seeing things now that we never thought we would see before. If you may not know, I work in Washington, D.C. ground zero, as I say right now.
Right.
I am the Chief Clinical Officer for the Department of Behavioral Health in the District of Columbia. And so we are very much concerned. My job is with the DC local government, so I'm not a federal employee. But believe me, we are feeling this age of anxiety even amongst the DC employees. Number one, because we interact so much with the federal employees. And so we understand what they're going through. Number two, because they're not working anymore, the revenue that DC would have coming in is no longer going to be there. I'm paid by that revenue, you all. And so literally my job, other people's jobs are affected by how much revenue comes in when the people who are supposed to be there or who are working there in the District of Columbia for the federal government, they're no longer there. They're no longer spending their money because they don't have their jobs. So even in our executive leadership sessions and stuff, we've actually had to deal with this particular topic of anxiety, Bishop, the last 2 weeks. Before we could even get into what we have to deal with. So there's so many different things that are looming right now. So I want to make sure that people know that we are in touch. We feel you. I'm actually living in Ground Zero. I mean, Baltimore's not that far. So as we know, Social Security Administration over in Woodlawn. A lot of people have been affected by these emails that have gone out. Literally, I know people working in VA hospitals where they're servicing clients and patients where they have to literally each week now write the 5 bullet points of what they have done in order to make sure that they can keep their job. Yeah, this is very anxiety provoking.
Yeah, and that's why we wanted to talk about it and the ripple effects of it and the anxiety and just what's going on. And I didn't even mention the things with DEI and diversity, equity, and inclusion, and even certain efforts that have happened to really do what are called straw man arguments. And yeah, if y'all nerd out for me for a minute, what is a straw man argument? Great. A straw man argument is when I take your argument or what you said to me, I redefine it into something you never said, something you never meant, and something that was never your original intention. I redefine it, and that's why we call it a straw man in critical thinking, because it's like you built something that looked like me, but it's not really me. So I take what you said, I reconstruct it, and then I attack the reconstruction as if it's what you said. Are y'all with me? So we call that a fallacy of logic. That's a straw man argument, but our culture in many ways is falling for it. Let me give you an example. Are we together? Yes. So, Dr. Shepard, you say, just for the sake of conversation, you say to me, Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
And I say to you, here's the straw man argument, all lives matter. I can't believe you only care about black people. It's not right to really only care about people who look like you. That's not right. I can't believe that you're like that. I can't believe that you only care about black people.
Wow. And
did he ever say that? No. But I just constructed a straw man argument. And if you do that, it's so pervasive in our culture. We don't even know what woke means anymore.
Wow.
We don't even know what diversity, equity, and inclusion means anymore, because it's been redefined and attacked for the redefinition. Are we together? Dr. Shepard, you were going to say something?
No, absolutely, Bishop. That's powerful. I hope y'all get that. The strongman argument. And really, you can look in your lives to see where there are other strongman arguments and where we've been lied to, even as black people, and been told that one thing means something else. And honestly, Bishop, and I'm not sure how far we want to go into this, when you start to look at the mindset of people like that, so for instance, if we look into the mindset of our current president, I've been really researching and doing a deep dive into the mindset of Donald J. Trump.
Oh boy.
Now, people have said, now, Shep, why are you doing it? they wouldn't say Dr. Shep. They say, Shep, why you doing that? Like, are you okay? But I'll be honest with you. I woke up about 2 Sundays ago, Bishop. The Lord woke me out of my sleep and said, I need you to start thinking and researching about the current president of this country. And as I began to do that, I began to look and research and began to see some things. And I'm just going to give you just a little tidbit of some of that stuff today, and we're going to continue to bounce off of each other. But it really flows nicely with the strongman argument, because when you begin to look at how a person can conceive and be able to construct something that really is a bold-faced lie, and begin to understand how this man thinks, it actually pulls down some of the facade, some of the fear, which again, when you leave out of here today, we want to make sure that you're empowered, you're encouraged. But sometimes you got to study your opposition to understand how to make sure that you don't become as fearful from their attacks. So when you look at the mindset of President Donald Trump, you really have to look at what he's doing to make people feel unsafe and unsecure. So safety and security is what I went back and looked up and to really study. So safety and security are part of every human basic need, human being basic need. Can we agree on that?
Absolutely.
That is a basic human need. Food, shelter, then safety and security. And there's a triangle called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And it's a triangle. Some of you all may be familiar with that out there. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And it's a base. And safety and security is part of that base. It's something that every person needs. And so when you talk about safety and security, they are tied to trust and secure attachments. Mm-hmm. And so that means human beings develop trust and secure attachments during their childhood and adolescence. So I am a child adolescent psychiatrist by trade. That's what I went to school to become. So I studied about childhood development. And so when you look at, and everybody here has been a child. Out there, you've been a child before. And as you know, as a child, you look to your parents, you look to authority figures for safety and security. But when that person is not there, it messes with your trust. It messes with your level of security and attachment. So when there's poor to no trust or no secure attachments exist, a person finds it difficult to feel safe and secure. All right. Are we all together on that? Mm-hmm. Bishop, you want to add anything to that?
Actually, you're on it. So we're talking about attachments and how they can follow us throughout our lives. And so I'm assuming that you have done some studies now into the childhood.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. All right.
You do that.
All right. I just want to check in. So with that, there is a theory called the attachment theory.
Yes.
And the attachment theory, it talks about how a child bonds with his or her caregiver, and that influences his or her development. So when you have a secure attachment, which comes under that attachment theory, that person or child has a positive relationship with his or her caregiver, which can then help that child regulate his or her emotions, solve problems, and do well in school. So let me just say this. The quality of a child's attachment can be influenced by the caregiver's responsiveness to the child's needs. So if you have a child who's coming up to you and pulling on you, Mommy, Daddy, pay attention to me. I want you to see this. Look at what I drew. And the parent keeps gone somewhere. I don't got time for this. Pushing your child away, which we see sometimes while we're out. Mm-hmm. We see that sometimes while we're out grocery shopping. Now I know those who are virtual, you may not hear the audience in here, but yeah, they're not in agreement. You may see something where a child wants your attention, But because you're occupied, the caregiver is occupied for whatever reason it may be, they're not able to give that child that attention. And if this continues over and over chronically, then that attachment is no longer secure. And so now you have a child who's developed, and children will develop whether they have secure or non-secure attachments. And so now when they have that non-secure attachment, there's a trust issue because they don't know if they can depend on that caregiver to respond to their needs when they are asking. I hope that makes sense.
It does, and it should be familiar because we've talked about attachment styles and attachment history. Are we together? I'm going to do this disclaimer. Yeah. So we're going into, or Dr. Shepherd's going into a theoretical framework. He's not actually had time to sit down with this person and all of that. None of us have. So it is a theoretical framework that we're developing based on what we do know. Are we together? All right.
Thank you, sir. Keep me out of trouble. And so with that said, there is actually a disorder, and I do treat this disorder in psychiatry. It's called reactive attachment disorder. And I've seen that actually in play with a particular child who got admitted to an inpatient unit. And in this disorder, you can have a child's failure to develop secure attachments lead to chronic misbehaviors or chronic issues due to significant neglect, abuse, or instability in his or her childhood. I remember very clearly I had a 5-year-old, imagine a 5-year-old girl who was admitted to an inpatient psychiatric unit. Yep, she was 5 years old, and she had to be hospitalized for mental health disorders. And she really did need to be hospitalized. I'm not gonna lie. It wasn't something that people should not have done. She was that aggressive, and she was literally that disruptive. But what I had never seen before was literally when she was acting out and she was having one of her episodes. There was about 5 to 6 of us on the unit, and she was having one of her episodes, and we surrounded her in that circle, and she literally was spinning around, crying out for her mommy, crying out for whoever. And it broke my heart, y'all. It broke my heart because I was just looking to see this young girl doesn't have any secure attachments. Right. Another way is that she actually ran up to me and called me daddy. I'm not your father. I'm your physician. But because she was lacking the secure attachments that should have been developed as she was in her, in infancy, at 1, 2, 3, 4, she just reached out to any person and gravitated to that person because of that reactive attachment disorder. It's something that is real, you all. And so when you look at not having those safe and secure attachments, it lends to understand why we have so many people who do not trust other people. I'll stop there for this.
So what you're alluding to is that it is a concerning thing when there may be unresolved history of insecure attachments and parental childhood upbringing, when that isn't dealt with and one ascends to significant positions of leadership, whether it be a pulpit or whether it be a state house or whether it be a White House, then those unresolved issues follow us because we're still people, even as we assume titles. Now, you can fill in the blanks from there, right? Are we together? So we have the personal situation of leaders to consider in this age. For all of us, that's why we've spent so much time in stressing the importance of self-care for laity and leadership, because we all bring our histories with us to our present. So that's the importance. And attachment theory basically says that those formative attachments, whether they be secure, insecure, anxious, whatever they are, avoidant, can influence all of our relationships moving forward. And so that's one dimension to consider with people in leadership and how that could be influencing decisions and present pieces. I want to add to that that theology matters. We are under the influence right now of leaders who have been very much influenced by a particular, even theological orientation, particularly the theology and the idea of, and you can look this stuff up, Norman Vincent Peale. Norman Vincent Peale was a kind of like think it and become it, kind of power of positive thinking, and always professing the positive. Now, if that becomes a part of your theology, and you already have perhaps certain narcissistic proclivities to not feel empathy or to perceive apologies as weakness, then you have a pseudo-theological justification for the unresolved issues. So you will very rarely get an apology. You can speak to that a little bit from the narcissistic point of view. You will very rarely get an apology if apologies are perceived as weakness. Now you combine that with, I always have to think and speak the positive. And you combine that with salesmanship, then I'm always selling. I'm always hyping, and I'm never apologizing. So there's a very psycho-spiritual combination there. And that's why it's so very important, I'll say that we have accountability circles and persons who can help us so that we don't merge errant theology into unresolved psychological concerns. Because the gospel is meant to help us. It's not meant for us to be misappropriating it in ways that hide and cover and perpetuate unresolved brokenness. Are we together? Does that make sense? Amen. In fact, he wants to see that brokenness and heal it. And none of us, I'll stop right there. None of us can be saved without confession. If we can't confess, we can't be saved. And I mean that in both senses, meaning saved from penalties in the judicial model. But also salvation is not just salvation as pardon, but it's also, as you know, salvation is healing. And so we can't be healed without confession. I have to come to the physician and say, something's not right. And me saying something is not right opens up the door for diagnosis and treatment, right? So we can't be healed. We can't be saved without confession. But if I have this psycho-spiritual block that doesn't allow me to do that, because I got voices that are telling me that anything that admits shortcoming is equated with losers and weakness. If I don't remove that narrative, then it's hard to move forward. I'm talking about for any of us. Are we together?
Yes.
So
that's good.
Dr. Shepard, I don't know if you want to add to that at all.
No, that's good, Bishop. That's powerful. And what I want to do is I'm going to just take us just a little bit deeper into the mindset of our current president. Because I'm going there, you all. And thank you for regarding the confession piece. And so I'm taking this a little bit deeper, I should say, because when you again, understand how this person thinks, it takes away the fear. It takes away the fear of what they're doing. The Bible tells us that we should be able to operate not in the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. But the way in which you do a lot of that is you have to understand how the opposition works. Enemy works through steal, kill, and destroy. He's very clear about how the strategies, and the word talks about how we're able to know the strategies of the enemy. So that's why I go a little bit longer, or a little bit deeper into understanding the mindset of our current president. When you look at his childhood, when you look at it, and again, these are statements based off of a book too. So I'm not saying anything that's just random or whatnot. You see how he had poor attachments to his father. His father's name was Fred Trump, and his niece wrote about these issues within their dysfunctional family, as she called it. I'm not calling it. She called it that was dominated by the patriarch Fred Trump, and he showed very little interest in his children. Fred Trump had 5 children, showed very little interest in his children. 2-parent household, and if you can't have a 2-parent household and yet only one parent be present, very possible. I've seen it where you have a 2-parent household and no parent was present. Everybody living in the same house, but no one's, and so that's exactly what was happening here. You had a patriarch who was not interested in his 5 children, and she quotes that the president was destroyed by his father because he ignored the pleas for help and assistance, and a void was created there due to the father's lack of interest in the child. And the child may have blamed himself for the father's response. Subsequently, the child may behave or do certain actions to draw the father's attention to him, and these actions may be positive or negative. Children will use behaviors to get attention, whether they're positive or negative. I tell people there is no such thing as positive or negative attention. It's just attention. It really is. It's just attention. If I got to do something negative to get the attention, I'm going to do it because I know I know you're going to pay attention. As opposed to with positive attention, you ignore that. Oh, you're just supposed to do that. But every time I do something wrong, that's when I get your attention. And so parents, guardians, we have to be aware of that when those type of things are happening, what type of standard, what type of pattern are we setting up here? And that's what was happening within that particular household. So when we apply these concepts, and wrap it up here, about safety and security being tied to trust and secure attachments, we better understand the pattern of thinking behind the behaviors and actions. So unfortunately, we're dealing with a president who's a very insecure man with severe trust issues due to the failure of secure attachments as a child. And his insecurity, just one more sentence here. His insecurity would then lead to actions and behaviors that cause chaos and confusion, thereby leaving others around him feeling insecure and unsafe. So when you might say, well, how come I just feel so unsafe and insecure? Like, he's only been president for maybe 45 days, but it feels like it's been 45 years. It's because this type of behavior is now being vomited on us. And if you're not careful, we will then perpetuate those type of behaviors because we have those same issues inside of us.
That's so very powerful. These are fundamentally human experiences. I want to reiterate, because I know we have people chiming in at different points. So this is a theoretical presentation that Dr. Shepard is doing based off of biographical information.
Yes.
Now, that's the college professor in me.
Yes, sir.
Citing the sources. Biographical information is not autobiographical information.
That's right.
So the person about whom he's speaking might have a different take and a different interpretation. But we're looking at this as a case study. And from that case study, there are also things we can glean from that. That's a powerful thing that you shared to say about absentee-present parenting. That is present physically, but emotionally distant and emotionally absent. Yeah. That for every parent, that should, heighten our sensitivity to say, help me to be present. Wow. Help me to be present for the influence that I have for that. So there are lessons to be lifted from this beyond the immediate theoretical framework that Dr. Shepard is presenting. Are we together? We good?
Don't forget to follow us on social media. We're on Facebook at Spirit in Mind, and we're also on Instagram at Spirit in Mind Live. Join us next time for a new episode of Spirit in Mind.